stock market, explained in detail for beginners. I'm doing an advanced version and a beginner version. Please let me know which one you land on. You need to watch this all the way for it to completely make sense. I have a point. So stock market, 2 words, we're gonna separate them and then combine them together. A stock represents a small piece of ownership of a company. Keyword there. So a company would split up into a bunch of tiny little pieces. We call that shares. So for example, if I own 100 shares of Apple stock, shares just means the quantity, stock represents ownership. So stock represents ownership of a company. Now Apple has split up their company into 15 billion tiny little pieces, and each share has a value. Right now it's around $200 per share, but if we were to take the amount of shares outstanding, the bunch of tiny little pieces, times the price per share, you'd get the total market value of the company. Right now, it's over $3 trillion. That's called market cap, market assigned value. To understand that value, Apple has a cost to operate expenses, which are parts, stores, labor, revenue that it gets, iPhone sales, services. They tell us what they've done quarterly through earnings. It's like their report card, which tells us how much is the company worth? Is it worth more? Is it worth less? And lots of things affect that. Revenue has to do with where you are spending your money. This is just the company. Now, if the company wants to go public, that's how they end up on the marketplace. The stock wants to be publicly available to buy or sell, which is what the market is. It's a marketplace where you can buy and sell. They have to go through the initial public offering process, and they list their stock on an exchange like the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. Now, we measure the stock market through an indice or an index. The most common is the S&P 500, but there's also the Dow Jones Industrial Average and NASDAQ. The S&P 500 is 500 of the biggest US companies. So the stock market is just a bunch of companies. Let's not overcomplicate it. And in order to be in the S&P 500, it's elite club status. There are rules to be included, which means companies are kicked in and out of this, actually quarterly. And every company or individual stock is separated into 11 GIC sectors, as you can read them all there. Another term for stock is equities, and that also includes ETFs, which are exchange traded funds, which is very common for first investments. These are what we call passive investments, because you can't buy an indice directly, the S&P 500, the 500 biggest companies, but you can buy something that mirrors the S&P 500, which is an ETF, and it's very common because it's elite club status. Your stock market is centered around the consumer. And if you want to access it, your brokerage firm is what connects you to the market. Ask your questions. I have a really great free ebook in my profile. Let's get FinFluent, not FinFluenced. Here's the whole board for those who keep asking.